Hello and welcome to another episode of Dad Bods and Bad Attitudes. I'm your host, Christopher Samella. And of course, I'm joined by my partner in crime, Mark Davis, candidate for District 16 in Florida. And we have some special guests today. I'm going to turn it over to Mark. He's going to introduce our special guest. He's also got some subjects he wants to touch on today. There's a lot going on in the world, goes without saying. So we're going to turn it over to Mark. He'll kick us off and he'll get us introduced to our two special guests.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about this episode. We have two activists. I think we agreed of how to introduce you, but and I kind of want to key this up a little bit because when I started my campaign, I literally felt like I was alone here in Florida of my hatred for Trump and all
Mhm.
things MAGA, and I literally was just sitting in my this office, just going crazy, like why doesn't anybody think the way that I think um but I'm running into more and more people that are like-minded, and so we got two like-minded individuals here that have their fingers on the pulse, I think, of what's going on, how deeply rooted some of these issues are that really we needed to extinguish. But Jessica Kelly, I'm glad to have you on. We spoke
Thank you.
in length not too long ago. You're an activist, just a little bit north of Tampa, I believe
Hmm.
that's where you live, right?
Pasco.
Welcome to the podcast. I think you're the second woman we've had on our Dad Bods.
That's right.
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
correct. She's in
Well, thanks for
distinguished
having me.
company with Mary Elena Kinter, and who's running for office in District 7.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so welcome to the
District 7
podcast. Glad to have you on.
against Corey Mills. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And then we got Max, who is in my district, lives in Bradenton, and he's a activist as well, and he is active with the 5501 veterans, right?
Yeah,
So
50-51, right?
yeah, so thank you, Max, for coming on the show, and it's just super nice to know that there's people not only around me, but actually in my district that are just as upset as I am. So appreciate you being on the show.
Appreciate that. Yeah, we're trying out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mark, last time we had Patrick Guzan on, business owner in your community. So, he just represents one, but, these are what's important to me is that they're not big mouths like you and me. They're regular people trying to do what they think is the right thing in the environment that they find themselves in. It's easy to feel hopeless about the situation, and all we can do to combat that is come together. That's what these folks are doing. We've heard a little bit of their story off camera, and I'm really inspired by what these guys and other activists we've spoken to have told us. So I'm interested to hear a lot about them from each of them. But Mark, what would you like to do first? Would you like to go into your topics or hear from our guests?
Let's just go ahead and to hear from the guests. Jessica, why don't we just kind of open up a little bit? When we talked, I think if I remember correctly, I think you had left your work, right, to become kind of a full-time activist.
Yeah. I was a mortgage professional for years and it was pretty successful. And one day I just started seeing what was happening to the Latin community. I was brought up by a single Latin mother. She's from Colombia. And I decided that I'm going to use the way that I look to help me be what I call myself an undercover Latina. So I use my privilege all the time to get myself in situations that I know that other Latinos cannot. So I do that in DC. I've done it in, Texas. I've done it in Florida and Chicago. I go to places where I know people can get in trouble by pushing their boundaries if they did not look like me. And I see it all the time. I go out there with my megaphone. I get in Secret Service faces. I get close up to people from high profile people and I tell them what I think. And the cops are a lot nicer to me than they are to people that don't look like me.
Well,
Yeah.
I think you're selling yourself a little short because I think I remember a video where you were screaming right at Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
Is that right? And
Yeah.
I think that was with the woke farmer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
will.
I mean, you've been in some of these pretty viral videos, and you've been in these situations that have
Yeah,
gone.
I mean, before I'm a pretty big loudmouth. Last time you're like, for the loudmouth, I get myself into a little, little bit of trouble here and there. Good trouble.
Hmm.
Good. As
Yeah.
John Lewis said, good
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good
That's
So
trouble.
good.
that's
Anybody
awesome.
screaming at P. Hegseth, Mark, has my seal of approval.
Yeah.
Period.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And I think
Well, it's funny because when they said we were going to a church, you imagine this, beautiful church. And when we got there, I'm like, why does it say Capital Bar?
What?
It's a bar. Pete Hegseth goes to church in a broke down bar next to the Heritage Foundation.
Of course. Of course.
And it's
It
it's
makes
next to
all
a
the sense in the world.
Starbucks. It's like the old Heritage Foundation, the broke down bar, and then a Starbucks. And you see all these people like seriously going, like they're really going to church. And I'm like, how?
hmm
Not that it
This is
doesn't
in
matter. You
D.C.?
can worship wherever. That's not what I'm saying.
This is in
I'm just,
D.C., Jessica?
huh?
In D.C.?
In DC. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I'm not saying that you can't worship in a humble place. That's not what I'm saying. Of course, worship wherever you want to worship. But for all the times that they've said, you have to look a certain way and be put together and this and that, and all of the scrutiny that he has for being, loving alcohol, I found it a little funny that it was a broke down.
More than a little funny.
so is it like an active? Is it an active bar? Like
No,
week
no, it's
on Sunday?
really closed down, but they just never took the sign off.
Right.
There's pictures online. It's hilarious.
Well, I mean, it's nothing about this administration.
Is
Everything
normal.
is normal, right? It's just more bizarre every day.
Seriously.
And let's talk about one of the first points that I wanted to bring up. Um, was with what happened today with the Epstein files.
Man.
So you had Lutnick in
You
front of
mean
Congress.
Nutlick? You mean Nutlick, right?
Sure.
Good old Nutlick.
What do you got? What do you guys? I mean, did you guys track any of that today? I mean,
So I was
Matt,
catching
what do you
up
think?
because I was at work.
You were at work.
But I caught some of the first hearing with the with ICE and CBP, but then I caught up with the with Lutnick after I got home. Which, I mean, of course he was lying. But also even within the lie, he's still trying to act like it's not a big deal, and it's like, bro,
So for people that may not be familiar with what's going, and it's not funny, like we're laughing and
I
we're
mean, it is,
talking.
but it isn't. Because look, let's be honest, man.
Yeah,
Because the whole thing
right,
with the Epstein files, beyond the pedophile ring, I
right.
mean, including it, but like beyond it, it's almost like it's like this dude wanted to be every conspiracy theory you've ever heard of in one person.
Right. Yeah.
And because it's
It's a great
amazing the
point,
things
Matt.
that there's documentation for things that used to be crank theories, and now you can be like, no, here's a document.
Right. Let me just, because I want to hear what Mark says, but Max, to your point, I want to concede something to MAGA. So this is my message to MAGA based on what you just said, Max, which is, hey, I can admit when I was wrong. You guys were right. You guys had it figured out 10 years ago, 11 years ago. You said there was a pedophilia ring of massive epic proportions with all these elites and influential people a part of it. And you guys were right. You fucking nailed it, except for one minor detail, which is it's all your side of the equation. It's
Well,
all
and even if it's
billionaires and Trump and the Trump acolytes are who's in the Epstein files, and then Bill Clinton, which we
It's
don't give a fuck
actually
about Bill Clinton. You can have Bill Clinton and you can do whatever you want with Bill Clinton. We really don't give a shit. If he's
I
guilty,
don't.
Hold on,
fucking
hold on.
hang him. We don't really fucking care. But the point is, you guys were right. There is something going on. I thought it was just total lunacy. I thought, they're invading a pizza parlor. The guy was, people were assaulted at gunpoint.
So let me
And, you know,
interrupt you, but I got
yeah, go ahead.
something to think about too. Is so there's no proof to this yet, and I'm not a fan of going down conspiracy theory lane, but we are currently in conspiracy theory lane, unfortunately. And one of the things that's also important to note is I'm sure you've heard about the little bit of that small 4chan connection that Epstein also had with Moot. who is the creator of 4chan, when they created their politics board, and that is where a lot of the QAnon, the
Yeah.
pizza stuff came from. Steve Bannon potentially, obviously had his very strong ties with Epstein, and there was some other cat that they were talking with whose name escapes me at the moment, but seemed Russian. Again, there's only a couple of emails to go off of at the moment, but there's an entirely non-zero chance that they disseminated that entire thing themselves to start that movement.
Right.
It's again no
It's a
proof
great
yet,
point
but
because everything
there's
is
yeah,
everything's a projection, right? Everything
right.
they say is actually about someone else is about them all of the time,
Mhm.
100% of the time. So it's interesting you say that because that kind of is the missing ingredient to this pedophile conspiracy that they started 10, 11 years ago, and people got hurt over it and people's businesses were invaded over it. That maybe that this thing was entirely uh, black ops by Epstein, Bannon, whoever else they were in league with, and they created 4chan to drip out this conspiracy
There's also
to.
one board on 4chan. Important to note that so people
Okay.
don't think that you're
One
like,
board on 4chan, which
yeah.
I don't know if that makes it any better because 4chan is nothing but bullshit. So, maybe maybe that was what they did. It's psyops, it's go ahead,
No, but
Mark,
that's
with
what I'm
what you were gonna
saying. I
say.
think it is. I think it is a lot of psyops because there's lots of when you look at some of the other emails that have come out over just different various topics that he had his hands in, and a lot of these things come down to them literally saying, "Hey, I'm doing a psyop," which again I hate it because it makes us all sound like conspiracy theorists. But
And I want to hear from Jessica. She was trying to speak there. So go ahead, Jessica.
The
apologies.
thing that I always tell people, especially when I watch like Abby Phillip on CNN or something, and they have the roundtable, and the Republicans always say, but when Joe Biden,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and we're like, okay, yeah, but he was sleeping, right? He was Sleepy Joe. He didn't do anything, right? That's what you claim. So don't worry about him. And we don't care who is on our side. Burn him down. Burn the whole place down. We don't care. We
Yeah.
want these women that I've met in DC. I was there that day that they were giving their speeches in front of the cameras, and I hugged one of them and I promised her, and I said, we will get them all released and you will get your day. And we don't care who we have to step on to get their day where they feel like we've done enough. And so we need to keep on pushing it, whether it's Bill Clinton, whether it's, whoever else is in there that is
Right.
Democrat. We don't care. And I think that's what MAGA doesn't
They
understand
don't
is
get
that,
that, Jessica. It's a great point. Other people have said it. Anytime they come up, it's like, Bill, who gives a shit? We don't care. Release the motherfucking files. That's it.
mhm.
Man, if I
I
had a
want to know
quarter,
who hurt a 9-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't know how many of us are parents, but when you're a parent and you see all of these horrible things that they did to
Your heart
kids,
breaks for him because I couldn't
um,
imagine.
and to say that they're 15 and 16 years old and that they knew better, okay, but what are you talking about? You're an old man.
Yeah.
Like
It
that
doesn't
it's
matter.
different between having a 15-year-old, do whatever they do when they're 15 and then having them being coerced into something.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is the difference. And I don't think MAGA understands that. Especially, unfortunately, the women that I talk to that are
Well,
MAGA.
Uh,
I don't think they're paying attention. No, I don't think they're paying. I think they've checked out of the Epstein files. Like even this Howard Lutnick thing, right? Where
Nutlick?
sorry, not like where in 2000 where just months ago, right? He was interviewed and he told America that he had one interaction with Epstein and that was in 2005 and he walked right next door and he saw a massage table inside his house and he said that's gross and he told his wife this man is sick or something. I don't want to associate with him. And that's the last time that he's ever associated with him. He said that months ago. And then it just came out in the Epstein files that it wasn't true, that he lied,
Yep.
that he not only kept talking to him, he visited him on his island and
oh
had
yeah,
Yeah.
had
lunch
a
with
nice little
him.
lunch.
I mean,
Just
you
He
don't
had
go
lunch.
visit somebody at their private island when you haven't talked to them for 7 years. Those kind of places have extreme security. They don't want people to just whoever come
Just
in.
show up.
Yeah, just you don't show up to somebody's private jet nor private island without having some kind of rapport with them. And
Yeah.
especially, why would you have your kids if you felt that way? The thing that I got as a mom, if you felt that way, grossed out with your wife, why would you take your kids onto an island if you got grossed out like
That
that?
it's a
Right.
great point, and he could, if he were and he's an idiot. Like if you've ever heard Nutlick speak, the idea that this guy became a billionaire, it makes my I feel like my bones are going to calcify and fucking turn to dust inside my skin when I hear about this moron is a billionaire or has been successful in anything because he's an imbecile. If
Mhm.
you've heard him speak about any subject matter, he's a complete moron.
Brother, when you read them files, it's just filled with idiots. It's
It
amazing that
is.
we're
Max,
run by
you're
these
100%
cats.
right.
They
But
can't
to make
write
the point
email,
about
they can't spell.
they can't spell, they can't use punctuation, they have no the idea of a run-on sentence is foreign to them. But apart from that, Nutlick, he like if he wanted to, he could make the argument that, well, I would never bring my kids to an island where this kind of behavior was going on, of course. So he could say that that were in any way would be some kind of counter to the idea that there was all these improprieties and crimes going on in this island. But he knows better because he knows that fucking crimes were going on there. So he can't say that he wouldn't bring his kids to a place like that. So Jessica's right. He brought his kids knowingly to a place like
I mean,
that,
even
and he's
if you
not going
did
to
it,
refute it.
yeah, if you get the ick about somebody, you would never take your kids. Fine, you may go out with friends. I mean, my husband's a Marine, and half of the guys that he was in the Marine Corps with, he, not half, but there's a couple of people that he's like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to hang out with them anymore. But
Yeah, right.
but he would, but he wouldn't take his kids around them.
Uh huh. Sure.
Does that make sense?
Of course, it makes total sense.
But he has no credibility now. He already
Right.
Hmm.
lied about it, right? We're talking about the Epstein files. This is child rape. This is nothing to lie about. And you think you're not going to get caught? They thought all these files, I guess, were just going to be redacted, but Howard Lutnick's name wasn't redacted.
Well, to that point, I mean, you saw the other thing that's the big news today that I don't feel like has gotten enough attention yet. At least I haven't seen it, but it's only today. Was when Rokanda and Massey went to go look at those unredacted files. One of the things that they mentioned was that the reason that they are as heavily redacted, even as they are, is because Trump already had gone and had the FBI scrub them previously.
In March, so
And what they
almost
were
a year
doing,
ago.
yeah, and what they were doing was basically they were trying to pass or essentially launder the files, pass them off as well, this is what the FBI gave us, and like hoping that they weren't going to get called on that, it seems. But they have been called on it, so now the question is going to be is, does the FBI still have them, and will they be compelled to give them up? Which, with this government, who's to say?
These people are sick. These people, I mean, these are like, I don't know. I mean, if you start to, I haven't like combed through the files. It's gross, right? But I'm
You mean you have other things to do other than go through 3 million of the currently available redacted files? 3 million in this investigation.
What do I
You
got
don't
news
have
for you? Jmail.world. Check it out if you haven't heard of it.
but
Someone
what's
people
it
have
called?
seen that they're very
Gmail.world. Someone threw together, they made a mock up Gmail as if you were in Jeffrey Epstein's inbox.
Yeah.
So obviously, I think the worst stuff is, that would get people in, like, potentially in trouble. I think that stuff may not be in there. You have to look that up. But as far as like all of the currently released files up to date,
Yeah, I just got to this. This is
yeah. So
insane.
you can go through it as if it was an actual searchable inbox. And if there's any issues with it, then on the top right you should see a button where you can see the original file. So
So I'm logged
if you want
in.
an easily searchable index, there you go.
I props to this guy. Who's the guy behind it?
I don't know, but he deserves more props.
It might be this Cody guy who emailed because or
repeat
somebody else emailed him.
website.
Gmail.world.
Gmail.
Yeah, this is wild. I'm actually going to
This is why you gotta meet everybody. I'm nobody, but y'all didn't even know about that. It really
There's
is.
it's hard
so
to
much
keep up.
information right now. Like,
Like
I
I got negative
watched
$100 in my bank account, but here I am
Max, take
helping
a
you
look.
guys out.
Look at this, negative hun. Like the last email was from Cody Rudland. You are dead. Lols. Good
I love that
riddance.
one. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
That's fucking beautiful. I don't know who this guy is, but props to him. If that's not the guy who set up this website, then it's somebody who had this prick's email and
I
knew he
think
was
it's up to
dead. You could
date with.
see.
I think
the
it's
date.
with the new batch. I'm not sure. The other place you could check too is on Reddit. You have the Data Hoarders subreddit, and they do exactly what their name sounds like. These are people with big data servers that are anytime the government's releasing files or any files, but they do everything. But especially with the way the government's been since Trump took office, they've been making it a point to preserve as much government files as possible on the secure mirrors. So if you need access to something, those guys can probably hook you up too.
Well, Jay sent an email about list for Ben and Steve, a sperm donor's family portrait. I'm sure there's more freaky shit. I'm grossed out just being in this
Oh
motherfucker's
yeah,
email.
they got media, images, all that, the whole nine. So
All right. Well,
Frustrating.
here's redacted. Redacted's in there. Farkas's email.
that redacted
Farkas.
guy, he gets around. I'll tell you.
Redacted, likely the name of a victim, seeing me for lunch early July. I hate you for introducing me to her. Can't get her out of my mind. What do you think will happen between Trump and Xi? Have a great F-35 story, but not for email, and it's no state secret. Again, these people cannot use punctuation, capitalization, or any other basic writing precepts that everybody understands from kindergarten. But kudos to Jonathan Farkas, wherever the fuck you are, Farkas.
The thing
Wild.
that I believe is that we're starting to see more Republicans read through these files and like representatives. There was one that came out today, a lady, and she's like, they told me not to pay attention to it, but now I started paying attention to it. And she's really freaked out by it. And so I think that that's also happening in MAGA world. I don't think
Hmm.
that I think that there's been enough letters out there that are creepy that people are starting to talk about the patterns and the way the girls wrote and the way that they kept binders and, drew pictures about how sad it was, that
Ay,
those
ay.
may pull on some heartstrings,
Yeah.
especially the ones that were kind of coerced by their church for voting for this. There's a church here in Florida that we were talking about that were actually sending out flyers around Christmas time that you need to vote for this person. Well, now imagine those people that were coerced by their mega churches for voting for this. And now they're reading these letters that these little girls wrote, their
Jessica, are you
diaries.
comfortable saying what church that is?
Yeah, I would tag them all the time and stuff. It was Grace Family Church.
Where are they located?
They're in Trinity and in Tampa.
Okay, so Grace Family Church in Tampa, and they have another church in Trinity.
They're huge. They have churches all over Florida.
Okay, and they're sending emails to their
No, not
congregation.
I don't think it was an email, it was a flyer.
Oh,
It was
sending
like a
flyers to the congregation saying, basically, it's a political flyer, is what it is, saying to vote for Trump. Is that what we're getting out
Do
of
you
this?
have it, Mark?
I'd have to dig it up. But
So you got one too,
basically,
Mark?
well, I think they send it I think some organizations sent it out to, like, all the churches in Florida, and then some churches decided to hand it out and some churches didn't. But even here in my district, Bayside, which has quite a few churches here, they handed them out. But basically, it was a side by side of Kamala and Trump, and it just said
Kamala.
what's that?
Kamala.
That's what I said. What did I
Okay,
say? Kamala.
Kamala.
Kamala. Kamala. It
He's
was the
still
side
fucking
by
it up,
side.
but don't worry, she's not in office.
Yeah.
I wish she
Somewhere
was,
by the coconut tree, I think.
So hard to say her name for some people.
but it just said, like, basically, you gotta be second guessing her name. Kamala's
Sorry.
gonna kill kids, right?
Right.
And
Okay.
Trump isn't gonna kill kids. It was like that non-nuanced, right? It
Right.
was Trump's gonna allow you to keep your guns. Kamala's gonna take away all your guns, so
Let me just say this. Number one, tax the motherfucking churches. Tax
Mhm.
them. Tax the shit out of them, especially if this is what they're going to do, because they're interfering in the electoral process, which I suppose is their First Amendment right to do, but they're non taxed. They have no involvement. I just think it's wrong. But beyond all of that, like who you're advocating for in this case, it turns well, we already knew he was a felon, criminal, liable for sexual assault. He started January 6th. We could keep going on and on. He's a liar. He's encompassed probably every one of the seven deadly sins rather, and the ten commandments. Right, and infringed upon all of them. but yet we as a church are going to broadcast that you should vote for this guy. It's just appalling, and they owe their entire congregation an apology for doing that. The thousands and thousands of people are owed an apology for that grotesquerie of a Grace Family Church and
I think that's kind
Bayside and any others.
I think that's the dynamic that I've struggled with my parents
Hmm.
is, and I've talked about it a number of times that my parents are full blown MAGA and I can't get them out of it. And I cut them off last July or whatever it was and said, come back when you don't support Trump, and I want an apology. Like this is, you guys are scaring me that you guys are turning fascist, but
No one likes
anyway,
to hear that either, but
but
it's a fact.
I wonder, like, why, like, what is keeping them there? And I think it's religion. Like, for some reason, they think that Trump is carrying that religious torch, that they're not getting from the other party. I don't understand it.
I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, I've been married for a really long time. We take our vows very seriously, but we're not religious. But I do love religion. Like, I love to learn about it, and every religion to me seems rooted out of love. And I don't understand how you can tell somebody to vote for someone that has had bankruptcies and divorces and, children with all these different women, and then you're preaching all of these things where he's talking about touching women without their, without
Sure.
their
Consent.
consent, thank you. Touching women without their consent. And then you're saying, but Kamala may have, not like guns, or and it's not. Kamala's probably a gun owner. I mean, we're all most progressives have guns. We just want common gun laws. So I hate that narrative, and I hate the way they spin the narrative. And it does kind of sound like we like to complain about them, but it's not that we're complaining about them, is that they twist our words. It's not that we don't want immigration. We just don't want people. We want due process. We want people not to get shot in the face. We want people to stop get dragging out of the cars. But yes, of course, there's going to be laws in this country. But same thing with guns and all of the things. But they try, even in the churches, they were trying to push it like that. And that's what drives me crazy about the churches.
Well, it's like this, like to kind of to your point, like as an example. So I was getting into the stupid internet argument as we all want to do in this era, and it was stupid. It's over the Alex Preddy murder, right? And of course, one of the things you keep seeing pop up when people are arguing this point is once you get past the actual death, they start trying to defend their newfound anti-gun sentiment that they have, right?
Right.
And their whole situation is like, well, the Democrats are still trying to take guns. Don't fall for this. Like Trump's just saying you can't be having guns around the police and all this jazz. And it's like, okay, here's the difference. Like when the Democrats do try to take, to the degree that they do whatever, take your weapons, it's being done legislatively, which means you have a say. Your representatives have a say. That system is broken, but like there's the system that is currently existent is being used. Versus if you get shot, you can't come back and argue your point. You know what I mean? If you get
Right.
shot by agent of the state, the
Yeah.
argument has been lost. Like you've already, that's the difference. If a Democrat does something you don't like, or your Democratic government does something you don't like, or whatever, you can reverse it legislatively. It'll be a fight, but it was a fight to happen in the first place. So like that's the give and pull of the government. That's how the Constitution functions. And this is why these cats can't make this connection that they are becoming fascist and they don't want to hear it. But the fact they are not dedicated to a democratic process and they would rather just have quick, easy
Yeah.
results, no matter how
Whatever
brutal it
Trump
is, because
says.
they don't have to have the fight.
Right.
And I think some of that maybe is born out of cynicism because of the way that our system is kind of fallen apart and failed to meet people's needs, like
Hmm.
writ large across the whole nation. But like, but that's the economy. Like these people don't care. They could be maybe trained to care again, but like they have to get results first, and that's not happening. So they just default to kill them all. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
You know what? I'm kind of hoping this next election cycle in November that they're just going to stay home and they're going to be so confused and they're going to be,
I think that'll happen.
just angry and they're going to be mad at Trump and they're going to be mad at Democrats. I think a lot of them are just going to stay home.
I don't. I hope that some of the stuff gets redacted and they see how disgusting it has been. And I hope that it is the names that we all think it is. and that they see that they've been conned and that they go out and vote. I really do. I can't imagine you not having that brought to light that all of this is happening. I hope they do realize that today I watched what 3 hours of the C-SPAN with the ICE agents,
Better than
the
Uh-huh.
me.
ICE,
I was pissed. I was too
that
pissed
whole
off.
committee. And how can they say that these things did not happen? There's kids that are writing letters from Dilley Detention Center. There are moms that are having to figure out how to make rent when they were stay-at-home moms, which is what the churches want, which is what the Heritage Foundation wants, which is what Project 2025 wants. Now they're having to figure it out because you've taken the breadwinner. And whenever they are saying that they have to prove that they're not US citizens, okay, but they had TPS or they had, you know, documentation to be here. A lot of the times they're just pulled out of their court hearings.
Well,
Yeah.
I heard there's like a weird transitional period between you can have like an expired green card and you can have a letter, and you probably know better, Justin, than I do, but you can have a letter from Homeland Security that basically says, this is your proof that we're working on your expired green card.
Correct. And we're giving you like 12 or 18 months to stay here. You don't have anything saying that you're going to be deported. They're just saying you need to keep on showing up to your check-ins. If you want your ICE check-ins, you need to keep on showing up to those. And you have 12 months. Well, now they're not even paying attention to that letter.
But
Right.
their green card itself can be expired, but they're still legally allowed to be here. And
Yeah,
ICE
it's because they're
agents
in a limbo.
and ICE agents, they don't know that. They don't understand the paperwork and the legality, you
Mark, they
know,
don't care.
No,
Let's be
no,
honest.
let's get clear with this. They don't give a shit.
right?
They
And
don't
Mhm.
that's this
care.
is what and I like but this is the thing that I keep hearing from politicians like on the national level, and I'm not putting you with them at all because I know it's not the same thing. But I want you to
No,
hear
Yeah,
you're
the
good.
Chuck
what's pissing me
Schumers
off as one of your
and
voters
You're
is
good,
is not just the Chuck Schumers. That's the easy target.
go ahead.
It's a lot of the cats in the Democratic Party specifically have this thing where they keep acting like this, and I'm going to use the word liberal in its literal sense, but like this liberal ideal that we can like we have to assume benefit of the doubt that there's actually a process, and it's like no, can we let's just use a little pragmatism, call a spade a spade. It is very clear if we're not speaking on the in a legal sense that these cats do not care and are intentionally targeting these people, which is exactly what's happening
Yeah.
nationwide. And we cannot operate on the assumption that there's any like it puts us at a disadvantage as people that give a shit about this country to act like there's like that there's any dedication left to the process. We need to follow like our process because we are trying to assert that it needs to that rule of law exists. But
I think
like,
their
but we
I
shouldn't
think their
pretend that they
overall
are.
their overall process is just get out as many people as they can. And
They're kicking
right,
out. They
and
don't give a
and
shit.
that trumps everything. That trumps legality, that trumps those paperwork issues, that trumps whether or not they are a criminal because they built this machine. They built this how many billions of dollar machine that has similar funding that I hear that the Marines do now.
Right.
It was more than that. That was the whole news story when it happened. Was the amount of money that they were putting that they were giving to ICE? I think dwarfed what the Marines were getting,
Is
if I
that what it was?
recall.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah,
know
it's
if the
more than
what
the
the
Marines.
figure is exactly, Max, but I know it's upwards of 70. It might be 80 or 90 billion.
It's stupid money.
Preposterous. Yeah, it's more than the Marines is what I heard.
And keep in mind, this is being used to arm what is essentially a civil enforcement arm. And I'm not going to pretend to understand every single bit of like how the DHS operates. That's not what I do. It's not what I did at all. Like I was just a lowly op four man. I was a Geronimo at Polk, and I'm an IT guy now. That's what I do. But like within my understanding and then my civilian level reading of everything that's going on, like this is a civilian level enforcement, like essentially paperwork crimes. And these cats are going out there with whether it's the less lethals or they are also clearly as we've seen with Renee and Alex Brady and also the other cats that they killed off video in places like California and Chicago. We see with those cats that they don't. Oh, my brain just turned off. I'm sorry.
Well, let me describe
You
to
know
you
what I was getting at.
what I think is really going on here, and I think that a lot of these things are attached, and it probably comes from co-president Stephen Miller. Um, that there is a slush fund of oil money being held offshore. We know that, right? Trump is bringing in billions from crypto and other assorted fraudulent schemes. We know that. In any other scenario, none of this would have been allowed. Today, no one will stop. So he is amassing a war chest, and I use that word explicitly, to fund operations in the United States. So we are under, I would term it, we are essentially under enemy occupation. This is almost like a parasitic host kind of, a parasite to host kind of relationship. He is the parasite in his administration inside the US federal government, and they are, deploying a paramilitary army within the borders of America, and they're trying to occupy cities. They're starting, this is the test case, because Minneapolis doesn't have anywhere near the number of immigrants, illegal or otherwise, that whether it's Texas, Florida, Utah, Colorado, New York, New Jersey, California, Washington, you can keep going on. It does not have that number of immigrants. So why are they doing it? Well, some people think it was punitive. Could be right. We know that they're trying to get the voter rolls and use it and basically extort. And Pam Bondi gave up the game a couple of weeks ago, and they're trying to extort the voter rolls out of the state by, having this occupying force. But in the biggest sense of what I think they're trying to accomplish here is, in the event that the democratic process plays out, which I think we should talk about the SAVE Act and the implications, Mark. But in the event the democratic process plays out and the Republicans are replaced with in control of the House and Senate, and there is the possibility of an impeachment or a 25th Amendment, that the premise here is to have an occupying army, because he didn't go out the first time peaceably.
No.
He's not going to go out this time that way. This man is a psychopath. Stephen Miller is his greatest enabler, and probably is, in many people's eyes, is actually running the country right now. And he's the, he's the Goebbels of America, and what he's actually trying to execute here. They're just getting anybody. I mean, if you've seen the footage, guys, they're pulling American citizens out of cars that are just driving by.
When did
So they
Jessica?
don't care.
When did you first know that, like, it was like, "Oh, shit," you know? Because I don't know, just hearing everything Chris said when I started this, like, I was worried about the economy, I was worried about the stock market, I was worried about a lot of things. I don't know if I was necessarily at that point worried about, like, troops on our streets that are killing Americans. Like,
Yeah.
when did you start feeling
Well,
that, like, "Oh,
yeah,
shit,"
definitely. My opinion, once they started unleashing Bovino and his thugs, it became very apparent to me. They're all cosplayers. I think that we all agree that they're most likely Jan Sixers, Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, or whatever other assorted asshole that they can drum up. There's a video out of, I think it's Seattle, where this is from January of last year, before Trump took office. A bounty hunter went to a city council meeting, and he told them they didn't really want to listen to this guy. This guy is a businessman, in the way he framed it. He said, uh, ICE has come to us, and they are going to pay us good money to go find immigrants. And basically, we're going to be, we're going to be deputized to a degree. And the he goes, this
but
is
but,
just
like,
what they told
Chris,
us is the first wave. There are going to be
but
two more waves.
even before that, like, I don't know, I don't know, some lady, and I was trying to ask Jessica, I was tossing up for Jessica.
Go ahead.
Some, that's fine. Some, lady named, Sophia, that was a follower of mine, like, early when I started, doing this. Uh, somehow she said there was gonna be troops on the streets, and I kept saying, "No way, no way, no way."
So I remember, so I'm from Dallas, Texas. That's where I grew up, mostly in Dallas. And so a lot of my friends were Mexican. I actually had a non-documented person living with me in high school because he was in a bad situation. My mom took him in, and he's like my brother. So being from Dallas in the Obama era, I did see people get deported all the time. Okay. Like I knew that they were going to get deported. That's why I'm saying that this is kind of a normal process, okay? He was known in the Mexican community as the deporter in chief. So, again, for the MAGA audience, that's why I'm saying that there is there's two ways of looking at it. So, a lot of outrage about the deportations. Yes, Dilly was open. Yes, Tom Holman was part of it, but there was a difference. When I started becoming an activist, it's because of the way that the ICE agents started being like they're not trained well.
No, they're violent
So
thugs.
they're violent. And I do believe that they're just picking people off the streets and giving them maybe 2 or 3 months, not even 47 days. I don't know how long the training is. But from what I grew up seeing from ICE agents and what I've heard from the Mexican community that did get deported, and what I'm seeing now and hearing from Venezuelans, Cubans, Colombians, Mexicans, all of the things, it's not the same. It's not the same. They're not getting treated the same. They're not getting ample food, ample water, and they kept the families together, and now the families are separated,
Well, they're
and
abducting
that's the
children from
difference.
school. I don't think there's
Yeah,
anything else to add to that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
Hey,
that's as
and I
other than
remember
murdering citizens, that's as bad as it gets.
in
uh,
February, I remember calling one of my Dallas, police depart she works at the police department, and I remember calling her and saying, "Hey, you may have to start helping ICE," and she was like, "I'm not down with that." And I was like, I'm just letting you know that this is something that police officers are going to be asked to do in the United States. And it was just rumors of it. And I'm so proud of Dallas for saying no to 287G. But Florida, every single sheriff's department, Minnesota's, I believe, signed up. So I'm glad that that city realized because Dallas will not survive without Mexican people. It just won't.
Hmm.
And they
can
know
I
that.
just? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Max.
Oh, no, I'm
Oh,
done.
I just want to say, like, while it's true that like you have these new ice cats that are they're obviously their training is piss poor. I don't think that that is the argument that people need to be having about this entire situation. For one, I should start at the fact that it's unconstitutional from the jump. Two, that it's a civil agency that's heavily armed. They're moving through the streets like paramilitary. But three, a lot of these cats that are doing a lot of these assaults that you're seeing that people are using the well they're not trained rhetoric are guys that have been in for 8 to 9 years whether we've seen like that's who killed Alex Pretty. Pretty sure the guy that shot Renee Good was also someone that had been in for almost a decade. And a lot of these incidents, if we ever got transparency into the people that are getting beat up, I bet you we'd see that as well. So I want the abolish ICE train personally. I think we can go back to an older
Yeah, fuck
immigration
it.
system and reform it. I don't see because keep in mind like the entire DHS system we have is all a reaction to 9/11.
Right.
Right. Yep.
And that was criticized back then. If you got, I was a kid. Yep. Some, I don't know how old y'all cats are.
Old enough.
Okay. I'm 34. I'm turning
Or
35 in a couple weeks, right?
yeah.
So
40.
like, so I was young. Yeah, I just remember 9/11. At the time, I thought Bush was a hero. Like that that was my situation. So, but people were complaining then, like, hey, this is going to turn into exactly what we see now. And I think that we need to actually personally undertake a project of dismantling and then reforming the entire DHS or creating a different department out of it and bring it back into its original component parts. I'm not
Yeah.
going to pretend to be an expert on how that plays out or how that should be done or how, because obviously that would cost money, time, and it'd be a massive like planning shit to work out. But like
Totally agree.
we have created the mass surveillance state and the mass police state that people were warning about in 2003.
That's right. Max, to
I don't think it's a training issue. I think it's endemic
no,
to the system.
I agree with you. But like you just you respond to what you see, and you see pure violence. A lot of it is just, and we've heard of reports that these guys aren't getting trained. But irrespective of that, it's all unconstitutional. To your point, and it's a result of the idea that this infrastructure was there and is now being fed in a way that maybe it was anticipated, maybe it wasn't. It doesn't matter. This is what they're doing because no one will stop them. I want to add to the fact that the budget that they have is why they're able to do two things. One is they're buying off local police departments. She was saying right before she jumped off, Jessica was saying the 287G agreements that they're making with the local police departments, what the police departments getting out of it is a bunch of money. They're getting a lot of money out of it to cover their expenses. The second thing is ICE has all this money to prop up new detention centers all around the country. So, and it's a lot of them. I mean, it is an awful lot of them what they have in mind here. They're going to buy a bunch of warehouses and what have you. We need to all be paying very close attention to that because I don't think Stephen Miller gives a fuck about immigrants. I don't think he gives a fuck about people doing things the right way, the wrong way. I think what you see with President Miller is that he's a fucking Nazi, period. And what he wants to do is send people to concentration camps that don't agree with him.
You're
That's
not
it.
wrong, but I would say this too, and I think it's important to keep this in mind and keep this in a similar context to if so like when we go through the returning to the Epstein files. So you see how like all these rich cats, all these people with power connected to each other in very informal, chill ways where they're just like chatting each other up, talking about different. You may have seen the one like where, for example, where Epstein was talking with the I forget which cat, which CEO, but they were talking about like Brexit's going to be great, and the tribal,
Right.
then the tribalism is good for our trading, essentially. And you had to take that connected context and also think about that in the context of the presidency, even if they weren't like it. I'm not saying this is tied in that way to like what the Epstein files themselves. I'm saying, but like that level of connectivity between these cats, these power brokers that are all currently the ones running the government, is an important thing to recognize too. Because like Miller's doing what he's doing, it's this little fiefdom that he's got, right? His little bit of power. But like that's not to say that there's on you obviously have your heritage cats and they all have their own business interests and all these cats and they're the ones that are doing this. You
Well, it's
know,
all
they have a
Project
larger plan to
2025.
reform the government. Project 2025 specifically, if you read through that, like obviously its main purpose was to try to invest as much power into the executive as possible, which has been made easy over the last 50 to 80 years of how we've organized it. But then you also have to deal with like they're not the only ones at play, right? Because you also have like your Peter Thiels and all that, which have a different idea of what executive power looks like, and they're trying to structure the government into more of like a corporate fiefdom. And then, in their own words, you're welcome. You can go look them up. I'm sure you're aware. I don't know if you are, Mark, but like these cats have gone out and given like interviews and conferences and all that, saying exactly what they want to do and what
Yeah,
they're for
they're not
America.
shy
Again,
about it.
not a democratic republic. It's like essentially a techno fiefdom.
Yeah,
Which again sounds like crazy talk, but this is all you. It's literally
it's the
just
real
them
shit. It's tech.
off to
I
you,
call it techno Christo fascist.
more or less. But the Christianity is just a vehicle, mind you. I'm not a
It's
religious guy
fine, but
myself. I'm an atheist, so
yeah, but just, yeah, I was going to ask you if you was going to jump
tell you
back
what,
into
I
the
made a mistake
conversation.
sitting outside. I'm getting cold.
Yeah, her phone died. Are you getting chewed on by gnats at all?
No, not too bad. I got a
No.
screen, but it is getting a little chilly out here. But I'm gonna just roll with it.
I
Yeah,
honestly
so
can't
I
tell
mean,
where the hell you are.
talking about all the ICE and all these federal agents on our streets, and it's out of control. And I think a lot of people are seeing that. And then Republicans are trying to shove this Save Act down everybody's throats, right?
Related.
So I don't know if you guys have caught up too much on that. I don't know like all the ins and outs, but giving the federal government more power over elections, specifically this administration, scares the shit out of me.
100%. Yeah.
My opinion, my uneducated, peon opinion is you had to look at all these kind of in concert with each other because, like, individually, a lot of these, maybe they're problematic, but like they don't have the large impact by themselves. But you got to consider, so you have the Save Act is going to obviously is clearly a voter suppression act, but it's one that like it's hard to argue against because of the way it's structured, right? Rhetorically.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then they could just be like, well, we'll just fix this one part and it'll be fine. Women will be good and don't worry about it. But then you have that. You have ICE existing, just in general, the heavy presence in blue cities that would potentially vote Democrat, maybe have districts that sometimes are red but are going to go blue. The threat to have ICE at polling stations. Then you have the threat of trying to nationalize elections against the Constitution, which, while not legal, if he has the power to enforce it, who's going to stop him? And then
Exactly.
you have, and then you also, and you have, what was the other thing I was thinking of? But you got those things together, and then you also have, I'm sure and the gerrymandering efforts, obviously, which I think are going to backfire, might be key to breaking up this whole situation. But like all of these are part of a larger situation. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, so
No,
just we're talking about the Save Act, and
Mm.
I want
we
to
were
hear from
talking in
her
depth.
as a woman, Mark,
Yeah.
because I think they're targeting women primarily with this thing. Just to piggyback off of Max's point, everything is like in concert. Project 2025, the blueprint, they denied it. It was the whole plan all fucking long, the whole fucking time. That's
I think
exactly
like
what they wanted.
63% of it has been done already.
Right. They're already like checking off the boxes
Yeah.
and they're doing it. They must be fucking rolling over in laughter at the complete ineptitude and incompetence of the American voter and the government and the Democratic opposition because it's just pathetic, the whole thing. I do think that it's all in concert. And I would agree with Max that the gerrymandering thing is that's what's gotten them in a mode of we need to come up with even more options here in order to ensure our victory. So, if we need to go steal the voting machines right from a local, elections office, we'll do that. You know, if we have to be that brazen, if we need to put ice around buildings to scare people, I mean, just think about that. It has nothing to do with, immigration enforcement, but they're thugs. So they're going to use them as a private army. It's like his own NKVD, you know, that's what these fucking guys are all about, I guess. So they want to do all these things because I think the gerrymandering thing, to Max's point, is actually going to backfire. There are enough Democratic states have done their own. There may be more to come,
And they
and
pissed off Latinos too. Don't forget.
they pissed off Latinos and they diluted their margins, trying to get more districts.
And
So
you gotta remember when you start gerrymandering shit, you weaken the other districts, right?
that's what I
So
mean. They've diluted the districts that they're
I
in.
mean, you're already talking about, elections that just happened. I think it was in Louisiana, and they like upset their opponent by like 40 fucking points, you know?
Everywhere.
That
Republicans
was
are losing
today. Was that
everywhere.
today or yesterday? I heard about that. It was like 25, 28 points, something
There
like
was
that.
one
It
Yeah,
was
in
crazy.
Texas. I don't know
um,
about Louisiana. I can't remember.
30 was Texas. The upset there. That was awesome.
We about to do that here too. You're gonna have fun with that one, Mark.
hell yeah.
Mhm.
I don't even know if I got an opponent. So,
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
well, I
true.
Yeah.
mean, as
But I
far
mean, because
yeah,
but DeSantis has announced that he wants to do gerrymandering, which I know you're aware of. So
yeah.
Yeah. So we went to Tallahassee for that gerrymandering meeting. And it was interesting because I'd never sat in one of those meetings before with the committee. Um, and they do it in a way where the average person doesn't understand.
Right.
So it's
That's
all
everything.
legalization, like all legal jargon, and so they do it on purpose, and then there's a lot of people that are on the committee that are not attorneys, and they're like, "Can you rephrase that? I don't even understand, like, I don't understand what I'm voting on." It was so enlightening to sit at one of those committees, but as a woman, I think that it's just rude to ask us to show our birth certificates and our marriage certificates and all of the things when it's common for someone to change their last name when they get married. And
Right.
what they're going to do by doing this is more young people that are turning 18, 19, more young women are going to want to keep their last names.
Right.
And a lot of Hispanic women keep their last names and they hyphenate.
Mhm.
And I feel like it's going to backfire and women are going to be like, you know what? If that's the way it's going to be, then I'm just going to keep my maiden name,
Yeah. I
which
I
is
agree. I mean, everything they do, they're they have their own agenda. There are second and third order effects that they're probably not thinking through. If they did, they don't care because they're just so obsessed with the now and breaking down the American experiment and undermining and submarining our democracy once and for all.
But I
Mark, what
think
else are you seeing in that Save Act?
well, I think a lot of the points, like, on the surface, they're just wrapping the real danger of that bill inside of those points, right? Like, fixing voter identification, things like that. But what's really inside the bill is that the federal government can now sue, like, local federal officials for voter information, and they can interfere with local voting
that's it right
elections,
there.
right? So that's what they're trying to do, and they disguise it under this whole Patriot
Right.
Safe Act, right? That it fixes some voter, but no, they want to be able to take control of local elections because right now local
That's
elections
the story.
are all set up, you know, that they're pretty independent of each other, and it's kind of messy, but it's kind of great because it allows for a whole lot capability of voter fraud.
Well, it diffuses the risk over Yeah, it diffuses the risk over a much wider surface to have
Right.
everybody
They
manage their own elections.
well, they wanna streamline all that, and they wanna be the ones that control the levers, you know? So if they disagree with a voter and an election result, they can sue those local election officials and
And
have
I
them, you know.
understand having an ID. Like, I'm not against having an ID. You have an ID, you go vote with an ID. That's fine. But it's all the extra, like you said.
A passport and a birth certificate.
Yeah, that's insane. You
Not
don't
everybody
need
has
that.
all that.
Well,
Yeah.
and keep in mind, and these are usually paired in each state with moving different, like just moving things around where it makes it harder for people that don't have them to get them. Usually right before an election. So
Mhm.
I mean that's the whole thing, right? It's not even that the law you could. I don't think that there's any need to do it, but for obvious reasons. Like I'm not going to accept their framing on his face. However, even within that framing, if you did, like it's again, it would read somewhat fairly innocuous compared to all the other psychotic things they're doing. But it's down to the fact that they're going to combine it with legislation and local and state
Yeah,
levels to move. You make it harder to get it. Oh, it's more expensive by $1. Oh, it's it's we had to move the office 3 miles down the
right.
road.
That's a great
Oh,
point.
it's only open for 6 hours during the day, conveniently when everyone's working. That is working class.
And everything is, like you said earlier, everything is in concert. Why did they change the postmarking rules of mail? Not for any other reason other than to affect mail-in ballots, because it's the only thing that it matters on. And you know, now it's when it gets to the service center where it's going, the distribution center. Once it gets there, it gets postmarked. That's the date at which it's counting the postmark. If you don't have it in before then, your ballot won't count. Your ballot will be late. So you can't just get it in a day early, get it stamped at the post office like it's been for however the hell long. They changed that. So everything is with the idea in mind, they're going to make it more difficult to
Yeah, they
vote.
actually asked the Supreme Court about that today. I think was something I read briefly.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Did you happen to see
they're
any
actually
outcome
talking
on
about that
that?
right now. No, I didn't. I'm sure it's not good.
Knowing this court, yeah. Well,
Alright.
here's a Mark, let
Go
me
ahead,
throw you a
go ahead.
couple other headlines just for laughs.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
Just for House Republicans eye official investigation into Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show.
Yep.
What a, anything to piss off MAGA, anything to take MAGA's nipples and twist them. That's it. What else do we got? Uh,
That's what I told people earlier. I was like, I'm sure people are so eager to go back to the era when they were arresting George Carlin and Richard Pryor for saying naughty words.
that's what they want. Yeah. Um, this is a quote. You up? What the Epstein files reveal about sex offenders' relationship with Steve Bannon. Right. So there's a
Go over
picture
those
here.
files. Yeah.
There's a picture on MS Now of an article, the Trump administration using secretive orders to crack down on dissent, and it's showing how an ICE agent is using his phone to take a picture of someone and get their ID using AI right off of the fucking internet.
Hmm.
How about that for something that has to be unconstitutional?
I think the most important thing in closing is saying that to MAGA that most of us are middle of the ground. Most of us want to own guns. We just want proper gun laws. I don't think that it's right for anybody that does not have military experience to have 4 or 5, you know, AR-15s. Like, what are you going to do with that? What are you waiting for? These things need to be registered, and we need to make sure that, people are using their brains correctly, that they're not crazy. And we're not against having an ID to go vote. We are, but when you start putting crazy rules on things, then yeah, we're going to get a little crazy about it. So I don't think that I want MAGA to vote and I want them to get out of their bubble. And I hope that we can start having conversations again with some of these people
I agree with
because
that.
I do think that they need to realize that, like you said, we're not all purpled haired. Though I love my friends with purple hair,
Same.
but they do need to realize that trans people are not going to assault them in a bathroom. They think too much of themselves. They're not even going to look at them, probably. Like stop thinking so much out of yourself.
Right.
And that the things that they're worried about are not things that are huge. They're just making them huge.
Yeah,
Well
that's
said.
the yeah, that's the right wing media ecosystem, is to blow every single fucking thing Bad Bunny out of proportion, and it's all nonsense. I think, Mark, you've had a lot of conversations trying to get in touch with the community that you're going to be representing if you win. And I know you've spoken to many MAGA people in your circles, and it's simply communicating to them it's not too late to just acknowledge the fact that these are bad people that you've been supporting. You've been, conned. You don't have to die on that fucking hill. You do not have to die there. You were fooled. You were right that there was a pedophile ring. And guess who's involved in it? Your president and all of his enablers and sycophants and the people in his
You know,
circles and the techno bros. You don't have to die on that hill. You can get out of it and join the rest of reality.
It's
and
like, hey,
just like you
listen,
can
MAGA, you can be
say,
a real goddamn American and fucking embrace your patriotism, brother. You don't gotta fucking lick the boot. Like,
You don't have
mhm,
to lick the
American
boot.
spirit is to say, fuck you.
Quit
Pardon,
licking
I
it.
don't know what the language is, but it's to say, fuck you to the government and take what's yours and jealously guard your rights.
Yeah.
Jealously guard, like, you're supposed to, an American is supposed to value freedom even over security. And the fact that it's not happening has been driving me crazy for the last 10
I
years now, to
Yeah,
watch
hear
these
that.
people just give up their American spirit. And it's like, I spent my entire life being taught this, being told this, living it, doing it. Literally went from like zero to where I'm at now, which ain't much, but it's like, and then I'm watching these people be just apologists for the most anti-American behavior there is, which is A, to bow down to another person at all, B, not hold people accountable, and C, this unwillingness to say fuck you to authority.
Mhm.
yeah.
Well
That's the
said.
most traitorous thing I can think of.
Well said. What were we going to say, Jessica?
I was gonna say
Sorry.
about to finish about my idea about the church. I want people to go to church. I want people to have their religion. I want people to go to mosques. I'm agnostic myself, but I believe that some people have to believe in something. And I just don't understand how these churches and these way of thinking are saying that this is right, that humanity, that they're not seeing people as human. I see them, the same people that go into these churches say they're illegals and they're raping everybody. You could say that about middle-aged white men, you know? There's more white middle-aged men in the Epstein files than there probably is, non-documented people that did these horrible, think there's bad people everywhere. And I just wish that these churches would realize what real scripture is, and it's helping people and feeding the poor and
Hmm.
not looking down at them like, ick, you have dirty clothes on. And going out there and really doing something. And if I can challenge the viewers to do one thing, is call the mega churches around you and ask them what they're doing for their communities. I want every viewer to say, what are you doing for your community? How can I help you help your community? Because when SNAP almost ran out, I talked to a person that works for Metropolitan Ministries here in Florida, and they said that we're going to go 3 days with food. That's it. We're going to run out of food in 3 days if SNAP benefits run out. So what I did was I got on the phone and started calling churches, right? Because my heart was like, churches love people, right? They teach the word of God. So I started calling these mega churches and I started asking them, what are you doing if SNAP runs out of food for your community? Nothing. The only people that had, most of them said nothing. The only people that had something going on that was a church were the Catholic Church. They have food pantries.
Yep.
So I would love for people to start calling their churches and asking, what are you doing to help veterans with PTSD? What are you doing to help the foster kids now that you want kids fostered because abortion is bad? What are you doing to help them in their 18 years of life? Like, if you want to be great in the best mega church, then show me what you're doing to help your community.
And become part of the mutual aid network. We're all trying to build
Mm-hmm.
it. We're all trying to
Right.
build it out here.
I think the common theme
Acknowledge
here
acknowledge
is
what's going on and start building up the logistics and get everyone on the same page.
I think the common theme is that we just want to be united, somewhat united again, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
just begging them, please just wake up, right?
Yeah, Mark,
I'd love not to
Yeah.
see an ocean of traitors every time I walk outside. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Mark, do you
Yeah.
have any final thoughts you want to close out
I
with?
want to end on a good note. We,
Go
we
for it.
made a lot of progress with Dad Bods and Bad Attitudes. We gained 70,000 followers recently. And
Yeah.
we did that by taking over a Facebook page. Yeah, it was like it was like we beca-
Mark did a
I became
hostile
the admin.
takeover, and we added 70,000 followers through that.
On Facebook?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's a
it's kind of
local
funny.
page. It's a local page that has like all Manatee and Sarasota people. So there are people in my district. And so I was slowly just like making political posts, right? And it's a apolitical page. Like it's not political at all. And so I was slowly making political posts and they're like, why are you doing this? And then I changed the logo to Dad Bods and Bad Attitudes. And then I changed all the rules of the group so that I could be the only one that
Yeah.
so now
But
that
I definitely I just didn't wanna come off as, saying something that I hate this church or whatever. There's great people. A lot of people that go there are Democratic. They probably did vote Democrat, but I just don't understand why churches are pushing to vote a certain way, and I wish that they would stay, like you said, nonpartisan
yep.
and just
100%.
wanna give and learn about their Bible and learn about, how we can help people because that's what it's rooted in, and
All
that's
right,
not
with
what
that,
I'm seeing.
I think with that, we have to wrap up for today. We
I
really
got one
appreciate
thing.
our guests. Mark, let's give a shout out to Max and Jessica from the west coast of Florida, near your district, near or in your district, District 16 of Florida. Mark, do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, but Max, you had one more thing? Go ahead.
Yeah, one thing for anyone that wants to get involved this month, as far as if you're upset with Congress like the rest of us are,
Hmm.
marchfordemocracy.org. If you go and check that
Yeah.
out, there's going to be a march on DC. Well, it's going to be a 2-day affair. So there's going to be or is it 3? I don't know if you know,
2
Jessica.
days, 20.
2 days. So the 27th, we're all going to be heading up to DC, basically heckle Congress to impeach Trump and the rest of his cabinet. I don't know all the details on what the call is there because that's still I'm just putting the word out.
Yep.
But then on the 28th, I believe there's going to be an actual march, right?
Mhm.
That's going to be a veterans and civilians march, or am I mistaken?
Veterans too.
To my understanding, I was hearing about maybe there's going to be a color guard march or something like that, but I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that
Well,
since.
Okay. Cool.
But there's going to be a veterans and civilians march on DC, and yeah, so and they are willing to if you need a ride out there and you really want to go but you can't arrange your ride, they're willing to set up like charter buses and get people out there as well.
if you go to Raleigh charter buses, they're using that Raleigh bus. So basically you pay a discounted fee. They worked out a fee, and then the more people that are on that bus, then they can actually get to DC.
Yeah, I'll see y'all cats out there. I'll be the guy with the Gadsden and the John Brown tragic prelude flag flying around.
All right. All right. Love it. And
Awesome.
So
that was February or what?
yeah, that would be February 27th, February 28th.
Mhm.
And then obviously the next month there's no Kings, but
There's
that'll,
no Kings on.
as
Yeah.
that comes
Yeah.
closer.
Cool. All right. That's it. Go to markdavisforcongress.com and donate. Thank you.
That's it. Mark Davis for
Bye. Thank you
Congress.
for having me.
Appreciate you for talking to nobody like me.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for joining us. Dad Bods and Bad Attitudes will come at you in 2 weeks with our next episode. Thanks for watching.
Stay metal.